The Montessori classroom assistant offers a lot of support directly to the children. And one of these ways that they do this is through modeling. They're modeling movement and they're modeling behavior. So for movement, they're walking in the classroom. They're walking around the rugs, not over the rugs. They're pushing in their chair after they stand up. Now, as far as grace and courtesy is concerned, they're using the same grace and courtesies that we are asking the children. Those same greetings, if they need to interrupt, if they're observing, all of those behaviors that we are asking of the children should be reflected in how the adults are moving and acting in the environment. Supporting the child's developing independence is so important. And this is why we want our assistants to understand that they need to wait until a child asks them for help. When we jump in and take over for the child, we are taking away a very important moment from them. We want them to be able to persevere in their activities, help them just enough so they can finish the activity themselves, so they can own that accomplishment. Now, when we overhelp, then we create this codependent relationship with the child. So when it comes to something that's challenging or tricky, they don't engage with effort any longer and they expect an adult to come in and finish it for them. That's not what we want. Now, on the other side of this, we don't want a child to over frustrate. When they get frustrated and they start to get very, very upset. We don't want this. So when we see a child on the verge of that breakdown from frustration, that is the appropriate moment to approach the child and ask, "Can I help you with this?" And then see what they say. Quite often, a child gets overwhelmed with an exercise and they just need help closing that activity. A great example are those continent puzzle maps. When all of the countries are pulled out of those continent maps, it can be very overwhelming to try and get them back in their place. Sometimes just sitting beside the child is enough help, or maybe getting the map or activity started and then sitting beside them, just to offer a little support so you can bridge this frustration and help them close the activity with some grace. Toileting accidents are going to happen at school with young children, and unless you have a school nurse, it's going to be the classroom assistant or it's going to be the teacher that are going to be taking care of this and supporting the child and doing what needs to be done. What is most important in this situation is that your classroom assistant understands that we don't make the child feel bad about having an accident, and we treat the situation so we are maintaining the dignity of the child. This is so important. We want to foster independence as well, allow the child to do everything that they are able to, everything they can. And sometimes that's just talking them through the different steps. But wet clothes are really hard to take off and they might need our help. But what's most important is that the situation is treated with respect and it's treated with kindness. Often, the classroom assistant is going to be in charge of orchestrating nap. That's setting it up, supervising, and then putting everything away. That part's pretty easy, but the part that might get tricky is how do they support a child who is finding it difficult to settle in and rest? Think about what you want that to look like as the teacher in the environment and make sure that your classroom assistant understands. Playground is also another place where we have an adult directly supporting the children. Now, the playground has its own set of rules that can be different from the classroom, so it's important that they know those. It's also critical that they know what to do if someone gets hurt and how to handle a situation if a child is being unsafe. Now, something that's very different in our classrooms is that we don't use praise. We use informal feedback. And this is what we want our classroom assistants to also engage in. And that's a really big shift for a lot of adults, not to give the good jobs and the high fives. We need to be able to let them know what to say. So when a child comes up showing you their work and they've got this great big smile on their face, what can they say? Well, it looks like you worked really hard on that. Or, you're so happy about your work. What was your favorite part? We can give this feedback that is giving validation to the child, but we can ask questions or make statements so the child looks within themselves and they can recognize the accomplishment that they made. Whereas when we do that over-the-top feedback with high fives, the praise rather, we have a child that starts to work for the accolades from the adult, and they're not working for the good feelings that they have about their work. Learning to support the children in a Montessori environment takes time, and it takes some education from the lead teacher. Be patient. It's a lot for your assistant to learn.